Hello all and welcome to All Red. Every day we get to see a little bit more of Arne Slot's Liverpool, and with preseason matches starting, let's talk about what we know so far about Arne Slot. And I have 6 reasons why every Liverpool fan should be absolutely excited, absolutely elated about Arne Slot. This is the channel that is all Liverpool all the time. It's all red. Please hit that like button and consider subscribing as we continue to build the best LFC channel in the world. All right, what do we know about Arne Slot so far? And in particular, I have 6 reasons why we should all be excited as Liverpool fans. So let's get started. First off, we've seen recently some player interactions and player interviews. Curtis Jones, of course, took the stand and talked about what it's been like so far to work under Arne Slot. And you could see it on his face, the smiles, right? You can always kind of tell when a player is either maybe not lying, but maybe not telling the full truth. They're a little bit more stoic. They're saying what they need to say to get along. But Curtis Jones, you could see the joy in his face of like, this guy is the real deal. Curtis Jones, one of the fringe players, right? I think I've heard a lot of people, myself included, saying, where does Curtis Jones fit in? Is he an Arne Slot type player? There's so much talent on this roster. Is Curtis Jones a guy that we're going to keep? And I think we got our answer. I think Curtis Jones is actually really enjoying life under Arne Slot, which is a really, really good sign. And you can see, if you've watched some of the training videos, behind the scenes training videos, you can just see like the team is not, they're not stoic, they're not frustrated. Everyone seems to be working very hard and yet having a lot of fun. Curtis Jones especially. So the players seem to be loving life under Slot so far. And that's always a good sign, right? Always a good test. If the players are frustrated, if they're not happy, if you can see it in their faces, there's going to be issues because the players are ultimately the ones who have to perform. And so far, I love what I'm seeing from the Liverpool squad so far in preseason. All right, second off, Arne Slot seems to love his players so far. You can hear it from what he said in a recent press conference about how he thinks that their team, the team they have now, is good enough to compete and win trophies. And honestly, I actually agree with that. Do I want to see some signings? Yes, of course. I do want to see more talent brought into the club. But if you look at what we were able to do last season, we were leading the Premier League for a large portion of that season. We were in contention for the quad. And of course, we had Jurgen Klopp at the helm. But the talent we had in this roster before AFCON last year, we were flying. And then AFCON hit, Asian Cup of Nations hit, the Asian Cup. I don't know what that's called off the top of my head. But Endo left, Salah left. We had some gaps, and then we had injuries. It's just everybody got injured, and things just eventually fell apart. We were still able to win a trophy, and now that everyone is back, everyone is fit. This squad is very, very strong, and I honestly will not be terribly disappointed if we don't make, a big first team signing this summer, because I just don't think we actually need it. And I don't think Slot thinks we need it. But he also said that he would be surprised if he didn't see a signing or two this summer. So there's hope there. There's something to look forward to. The third one is pretty funny. But Slot just doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what you think. And by you, I'm talking about the media. I think Slot cares about what his fans think, the fans of the club. He wants to provide a good product on the field. But you can just tell from the way that he walks, the way that he talks, he is not trying to please you, Mr. Media Man. Getting off the bus recently in some behind the scenes footage, he doesn't even look at the camera. He doesn't wave. He doesn't say, oh, hi, He's got a toothpick in his mouth. He walks through, and he just wants to get to work. Arne Slot does not care about the limelight. This is not too big of a moment for him. You can see the confidence he has. Like, hey, we have a plan. We have a process. It's going to work. Let's just get to work. Let's just do it. he is unimpressed with the spotlight, right? And that's good. That's good. Here's a good one. This is probably one of my favorite things. Is you can see the fluidity and the style. The training sessions that we've gotten access to see. It looks really good. It looks really, really good. And you can see his staff working with the players. You can see Slot is very hands-on. Like he is involved in everything they are doing. And he's imposing his style, right? Like we've seen a lot of one-touch football, a lot of drills that are just like very tight and forcing players like you can't do more than one touch. And the players are doing it, and they're doing it very well. And so the Slot style and fluidity is already starting. It's already being implemented. And, in these preseason matches, are we going to see, massive scorelines where Liverpool are crushing opponents? No, we're not. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some losses in the preseason, because what this preseason is about is figuring out who's going to make the squad and who can buy in, who can play in the Slot system. And so, there's going to be tons of youth players getting time and minutes. I think we probably see less of our, major starting 11 type players. But at the same time, I think Slot is going to want to see like, hey, who are the senior players that can buy into what we're doing here? Buy into the revolution, the Slot-olution. All right, next up we've got, I think the youth players. Here's my thought on the youth players. With the wealth of talent we have, I think there's a good chance that we're going to see things from some of these younger players that we've never seen before and never thought was possible. Here's some names that I think could really, really explode under Arne Slot. Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones is still a very young player. What's his current age? Is he 23? Curtis Jones age. Curtis Jones is 23 years old. He's a young player. He's still a very young player, not even close to his prime. And yet I think after seeing him in training and seeing the joy on his face, I'm like, dude, Curtis Jones, don't forget he was one of our best players last season before his injury. He was a very important piece of this team in our midfield. And I think he's actually a Swiss Army knife. He's not Swiss, but I think he's more of a Swiss Army knife, which Arne Slot absolutely loves. He loves players who can play multiple positions. I think Curtis Jones could absolutely explode under Arne Slot. Maybe he's our missing, double pivot 6 midfielder. We know he can defend a little bit, and we know he can get forward and score. Maybe Curtis Jones is the next Declan Rice. Arsenal fans are gonna kill me for saying that. But next name on the list, I think Harvey Elliott. That's an obvious one. Harvey Elliott is a 21-year-old with over 100 caps under his belt already. Don't take that for granted. I think Arne Slot is going to use him in a lot of different ways. Another player who's probably more of a Swiss Army knife and just a player that works hard. Harvey Elliott is just a good hard worker, and I think he's going to thrive. Have you seen Gerald Kwanzaa's arms lately? The dude looks like a Hulk. Where did this come from? Is this a result of the Arne Slot training? Is Arne Slot telling his players, go get into the weight room? I don't know if, I'm sure they did that before. But man, Gerald Kwanzaa looks like a monster. He looks like a beast. Look out. Look out. I hope he doesn't work out too much, because if his arms get too big, he might be a little slower. They might weigh him down a little bit. But look out. Gerald Kwanzaa looks like an absolute beast. And then Cleveland Kelleher. Cleveland Kelleher is very involved in training. He's with the first team. He's sticking around, I guess. What has Slot told him to get him to stay? Has he convinced him to stay? Has he said, hey, I've got big plans for you. Stick around. Maybe. And if so, I think that's a big win for Liverpool, at least for this next season. We saw how important he was last season when Alisson was out. Has Slot convinced him to stick around? And if so, that's amazing. There's a lot of other youth players. We've seen a lot of Trey Neone. I think there is a course set for Liverpool's youth to where Arne Slot, if they get to grow up in his system, it's going to be dangerous, man. It's going to be dangerous. All right, last one here. We already knew this about him, and everything on this list, right? We kind of already knew. We heard from Feyenoord fans and players. You know, players love to play for him. They love his system. They love his style. He has a very good relationship with his players, and he's very good with youth players. Well, we already knew about his communication, and we've already seen it now in the few month and a half that he's been in charge of our club. He's just a good communicator. Even hearing some clips from training. Good communicator with his players, tells them exactly what he wants, paints the picture, and then just as communicator to us as the fans in these press conferences, he doesn't beat around the bush, and yet he's just a good, solid communicator. Doesn't say too much, doesn't say too little, and is not easily offended, is not easily put off by questions, even if he thinks they're dumb questions. Anyways, I feel like just his communication to his players, communication to the fans has just been incredible so far. I'm trying not to get too excited about Arne Slot, but it's just hard not to, because this guy is just good, man. Like, hey, I was critical of, I didn't have a YouTube channel back then, but I was critical of some of our past hires. The Brendan Rodgers hire, I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, and then seeing his style, it was just like, okay, like, I don't know. It was just never like, this is the guy. The first time I ever felt that was Klopp. And I wanted him before Liverpool got him. And we got him, and it was like, this is amazing. Like, this is going to be great. And it was great. And that's how I feel about Arne Slot. I just feel like there's just so much to be excited about. So, if you're a Liverpool fan, I hope this is encouraging. I hope this gives you reason to beam with excitement. And time will always tell, right? Time will tell if there's reason to be excited. But for now, we can speculate. We can get excited. We can back him. And I'm excited to see, a little bit. I don't put a lot of stock into these preseason matches, but still excited to see, some of that style come through, some of that fluidity come through. So anyways, it's going to be up the Reds and up Arne Slot.